Brothers and sisters, the time for action is now. Yes, sir. We must unite and fight for our rights.
Harlem, June 3, 1952. The sun beat down merciless on 125th Street like a hammer on an anvil. Crowds bustled, vendors hawking ice-cold sodas, kids dodging cars, the air thick with the sizzle of street food. Then screams shattered the afternoon. A group of white men in plainclothes, 5 KKK members who'd slithered up from the south, dragged Leroy Johnson, Bumpy's 28-year-old cousin, from his barber shop. In broad daylight, no masks, no shame. They strung him up on a lamppost right there on the corner, rope biting into his neck as he kicked and gasped. "Uppity N thinks he can vote," one snarled. Leroy was dead in minutes, body swaying like a grim pendulum. Police arrived, cut him down, ruled it mob violence, suspects unknown, case closed by sundown. But Leroy was family, Bumpy Johnson's blood. And in the 5 days that followed, those 5 Klansmen didn't just pay, they vanished, erased from Harlem, from New York, from memory. Because Bumpy didn't seek revenge. He delivered oblivion. The KKK cell that sent them, shattered forever. Harlem whispered, "Cross the king, and 5 days is your expiration date." Leroy Johnson wasn't a gangster. He was a barber, clipped hair for Duke Ellington once, dreamed of owning a chain of shops. Registered to vote that spring, talked big about civil rights. That's what got him marked. The 5 Klansmen, led by Harlan Torch Briggs, a Georgia transplant with a cross tattooed on his arm, stormed his shop at noon, dragged him out screaming, hung him high as a warning to know your place. Witnesses froze, cops nearby looked the other way. By evening, the body was gone, but the bloodstain on the sidewalk lingered. Word hit Bumpy at his policy bank. He paused mid-count, eyes narrowing. "My cousin." Nodded confirmation. Bumpy stood. 5 days, spread the word, Harlem's closed to cowards. Day 1, Bumpy's network activated. Numbers, runners, maids in white hotels, porters at Grand Central, eyes everywhere. Tips flooded in. The 5 stayed at a Fleabag motel on the Upper East Side. Names: Harlan Briggs, Clyde Rope Dawson, Rufus Kane, Earl Whittaker, Walter Whip Crane. One witness, a black janitor, slipped Bumpy a note. "They bragged in a bar, said Leroy deserved it for voter drives." Bumpy burned the note, called his lieutenants. No noise, no traces, make them ghosts. Police already investigating. But their captain owed Marconi money. Italian mob ties kept it quiet. Harlan Torch Briggs woke in his motel room to a knock, opened the door, black bag over his head, dragged into a van. Woke up in an abandoned warehouse on the Harlem River. Bumpy stood there, calm as Sunday. "You lit crosses down south," Bumpy said. "Up here we light you." "No torture, just questions." Briggs spilled. Their KKK cell, 20 strong, meeting in a Bronx basement, targeted voter activists. Then silence. Briggs vanished, body never found. Rumors waited in the river. Police report, missing person, likely fled. Clyde Rope Dawson, the one who tied the noose, hid in a safe house, bragged to his crew, "One less voter." Bumpy's men struck at midnight. Dawson found dangling from his own ceiling fan, rope identical to Leroy's. Note left, "Hang in there." Cops called it suicide, but the KKK cell panicked. 3 members bolted town overnight. Harlem buzzed. Bumpy's cleaning house. Rufus Kane fled to upstate woods, thinking trees would hide him. Camped rough, paranoia gnawing. Woke to whispers, Bumpy's plants circling, rustling leaves, flashing lights in the dark. Kane ran screaming into a ravine, broke his neck. Body found days later, accidental fall. The cell now down to 12, meetings canceled, leaders begged police protection. Cops no evidence of foul play. Earl Whittaker, the lookout, woke to his bank accounts drained, house papers forged, foreclosed by anonymous buyers. Then his car brakes failed on the FDR drive, crashed into the guardrail, survived just. Whittaker fled to Chicago, babbling about Harlem ghosts, never heard from again. Walter Whip Crane, the beater, begged NYPD, "Protect me." Locked up for safety, morning found in his cell, heart attack. The cell scattered, 5 more quit, swearing off hoods forever. The remaining KKK leaders holed up in their Bronx basement, armed, waiting. Power cut at midnight, gasoline scent, a match struck outside. Voice through the wall, 5 days up, leave New York or burn like your crosses. They fled trains south, never returning, the basement torched empty. Police investigated the fire, electrical fault. No arrests, case closed. The rain came down in sheets the morning they buried Leroy Johnson. Not a gentle Harlem drizzle, this was a downpour that turned gutters into rivers and soaked every soul who refused to stay home. Thousands lined the streets from 125th to the Abyssinian Baptist Church doors. Men in their best suits, women holding umbrellas like shields, children wide-eyed at the sheer size of the grief. Leroy had been more than family to Bumpy. He was the quiet cousin who'd stayed in school, dreamed of voting booths instead of back alleys, and believed words could change things more than bullets. Until 5 hooded men in the dead of night decided his dreams ended at the end of a rope. The church overflowed. Pews groaned under the weight. The choir sang low and fierce, voices cracking on every high note. When it came time for words, Bumpy stepped to the pulpit. No notes, no hesitation. He looked out over the sea of faces, some weeping, some stone-hard with rage, and spoke in that measured baritone that could quiet a room or start a war. Leroy died for a vote, he said simply. We live to cast it. 5 words. They landed like stones in still water, ripples spread instantly. No grand speeches, no calls for revenge shouted from rooftops. Just truth delivered cold. The funeral became something bigger than mourning. It lit fuses. The very next week, voter registration drives exploded across Harlem. Churches turned into sign-up stations after Sunday service. Barbershops handed out forms between haircuts. Mothers walked their teenage sons and daughters to tables set up on stoops, whispering, "Sign for Leroy, for all of us." Lines stretched around blocks. People who'd never trusted the system showed up anyway, because someone had paid in blood to remind them the ballot was a weapon too. And the Klan. They felt the shift. No more midnight meetings on Harlem's edges. No more crosses planned for burning in Marcus Garvey Park or empty lots near the river. For decades, the white robe stayed south of 110th Street. Harlem had drawn a line in concrete and blood, and the hooded men read it clearly. Cross it again and the shadows come for you. Bumpy never admitted a thing. Not to police, not to reporters, not even to the inner circle over late-night whiskey at Small's Paradise. When asked about those 5 days after Leroy's body was cut down, 5 days of eerie silence followed by 5 men vanishing like smoke, he'd give that half-smile, adjust his fedora, and change the subject to poetry or policy slips. But old-timers knew. They sat on stoops in summer heat, passing bottles wrapped in brown paper, and told it quiet. 5 men hanged his cousin in daylight or close enough. 5 days later they were eternal shadows. No bodies ever surfaced, no confessions, just absence. And in Harlem, absence spoke louder than headlines. The neighborhood didn't forget. It rose. Block associations grew teeth, numbers runners funneled cash to legal defense funds. Young men who might have drifted into trouble found purpose in voter vans and community watches. Leroy's name became shorthand for defiance. Don't make us pull a Leroy. It meant stand up, vote, protect what's yours. And if they come for one of us again, remember the 5 days. Because some lights you can't snuff out. They burn back brighter. In the years that followed, when civil rights marchers carried signs and freedom riders rolled through hostile towns, Harlem's quiet strength was part of the backbone. Bumpy Johnson, the man who quoted Don and Dante while running an empire, had taught a simple lesson without ever saying it aloud. Terror only works until the terrorized decide otherwise. And on that rain-soaked morning in the church, with thousands bearing witness, Harlem decided. Leroy was gone. But the vote lived. And so did the fire. Here's the man who turned personal loss into collective power, Bumpy in his element, eyes carrying the weight of 5 days and a lifetime. And the streets he helped make unbreakable. The legacy wasn't in words. It was in every ballot cast, every hood that never returned, every light that refused to dim.